expanding the gun community. All right, now up here, everyone's going to identify themselves in a quick second. But up here we got, I don't know how many, 1,800 years of knowledge in regards to whether that's firearm safety, whether that's training, whether that's social media presence. The whole purpose of this panel, right? These are my friends, right? And I get to like not have to do as much work because my friends are gonna, pick up the workload. With this being the case, this panel is how we can expand the gun community. All right, as we saw in Virginia, or the mainstream media in Virginia said, everything that's gun related is only going to be like old white dudes. Everybody's heard that conversation 1,000 bajillion times. We consistently say we want to be more diverse. We use those catchy phrase terms and all that other good stuff, but this is actual diversity, right? It's actually what America actually looks like. So the reason why this has to make sense, is because these men and women up here are going to give you information that you can then spread to your demographics, to people that follow you, so forth and so on. Does that make sense? Okay, this is a Q&A. There is no fancy talk. It is straight talk. It is completely honest. If anyone wants to use the microphone, they can. If you don't, but the trick to it is two things. One, if you have a question, you have to stand up and identify yourself. Okay, that's number one. Number two, all puns intended, this is a safe space, right? There is no silly question. There is no silly statement. We want disagreement. If you don't like me, say it. If you do like me, that's great too. That's what this space is, but it's one at a time. You're going to direct your questions about anything that you have, and I'll try my best to field the questions to I think may have the best answer for you, but some of these men and women are going to just jump up and take those questions themselves. All right? And are we all agreeing that this is a safe space? No one's going to feel disrespected for asking any question. Is that fair? Yes. Okay, cool. Ashe. We're going to start with Tony Simon, and then we're going to go the other direction. Go ahead.
My name is Tony Simon. I run the Second is for Everyone Diversity Shootout in New Jersey, Second Amendment advocacy group, welcoming all people into the firearms community, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, background, gender, makes no difference. Everyone's welcome to the Second Amendment. It's your freedom.
Yeah. Well, you can clap. Y'all can clap.
I'm John Hickok, co-creator of Hickok 45. Make YouTube videos, if you don't know, and we try to make a point to be inclusive and just focus on guns and not take sides politically, other than when it comes to gun rights, so that everybody feels comfortable if they want to learn about guns. I've been doing it about 11 years.
Would you stand up, please?
My name is Kevin Dixie. Everybody calls me KD. I am a firearms instructor, a civil rights advocate. I believe human rights should be for everybody. So my job on earth is to fight back against the people that want to deprive people of those rights. I also run a nonprofit organization called Aiming for the Truth. Instead of blaming any tool or any one particular thing, I get back into any community, doesn't matter what community it is. I help people address the issues that cause people to be violent. Thus we kill violence at its roots so we can have more fruitful people in society. So that's mental illness, that is dealing with fatherless households, putting dads back in the households, getting kids different opportunities, kind of a life coach thing. So that's what I do.
Rob Pincus, I am the Executive Director of Personal Defense Network. I'm the token old white guy on the panel today. It's nice to see that kind of diversity and have it be sincere with this group of people who are mostly friends and some new friends. In addition to Personal Defense Network, IC Training Company, I've written a bunch of books, written a bunch of articles. I sit on the board of the Second Amendment organization and Walk the Talk America, and the newest organization I'm part of is the Center for Gun Rights and Responsibilities. And probably the most important thing that I think is important to talk about in terms of outreach and unity is remembering that this is not a conservative Republican issue. Gun rights are a human right, and that means speaking with people who might even disagree with us about why gun rights are important. And that definitely means not ostracizing them by denigrating anybody who's not a conservative Republican, kind of just that version of an American gun owner. So that's really important to me.
Hi, I'm Justin Nazaroff. I'm the owner of Phoenix Ammunition Company. We're a family-owned small business in the Detroit area. Manufacture ammunition mostly for competitive shooting and tactical training. So the more people shoot, the better trained they are. And we feel that one of the best ways to encourage the proliferation of gun rights is to make sure that the younger generations are as involved as some of the older generations. I didn't grow up around guns. I'm not a hunter. My parents never owned guns. I didn't get into that until I was about 21. So I see myself as sort of the end of the millennial generation where people are getting into competitive shooting, and we see that as a way to continue to grow gun rights and make it not as scary as what the media tries to paint it to be.
Hi everybody, my name is Chris Chang, and I'm History Channel's Top Shot Season 4 champion. I'm really excited to be here today with so many friends, and we're all united together. Right? How do we expand the Second Amendment community? My particular focus is on LGBT and Asian outreach, and for me, I never intended to become an advocate, and I really just wanted to go on Top Shot, shoot some guns, have some fun. And after winning though, and traveling the country and meeting thousands and thousands of Americans who love our freedom, who support freedom in all its forms, and so LGBT advocacy has taken a very, very strong and central role in my advocacy in the industry. I recently joined the board of directors for the Pink Pistols and Operation Blazing Sword, which is one of the largest pro-LGBT and pro-Second Amendment groups in our country, and really excited to be with this fantastic cast of characters.
My name is Akil Bey. I'm a retired Army Green Beret, a little bit over 22 years of service, and I'm the founder of the Taylor Defense Training Group. Our mission is to mitigate the effects of violent crime through awareness and self-defense training programs to any law-abiding citizen. So it's not just about guns to me, it's about winning, it's about surviving. So if you require our services, if you require the knowledge to protect yourself, which we all do, that's my passion, to kind of share my experiences, what I've done overseas for our country, to bring that same type of experience and information to the citizens here in America. So that's what we do.
Hola, mi nombre es Edgar Antillón. I just want to make sure you know I'm Mexican. So that guy right there.
I got a darker complexion than you do.
I know. Damn it. No, my name is Edgar Antillón. I am the co-owner of Guns for Everyone. That's the largest handgun training company in the state of Colorado. Since 2012, we've instructed over 40,000 students, all for free. Our idea is it's guns for everyone. I mean, it's in the name, Guns for Everyone. That's what we believe, and that's what we do.
My name is Argo J, and I'm Zeke Stout. I most recently was the host of Master of Arms on Discovery Channel. Before that, I spent about 7 years in the industry and been out of it for about 8 months, but I'm coming back in the education space as a part owner for a company. And I just want to be that annoyingly positive guy in the industry when I'm coming back. So thanks for having me.
Well, hello. My name is Michael Bloomberg Jr. Daddy, if you're watching, how come you don't call me? But anyway, I'm Michael J. I started out in the gun industry on YouTube, doing reviews and things like that. Ended up writing for a couple different publications, and finally kind of circled around to more of the activist role, more of the civil rights side of it. I wrote a documentary. The documentary is called Black Ops, which stands for Black Opinion in Popular Society. Trying to change the image of Black Americans, specifically Black males, but Black Americans when it comes to firearms. We're not all gangsters and criminals and thugs, and we're just as productive citizens as everybody else. And it's time to shed some light on that and highlight that. So.
My family owns AZ Firearms, a gun shop in Arizona. We have a radio show podcast called Gun Freedom Radio. I'm a mom. I grew up around guns. I'm also part of the DC Project. 50 women, one from every state, going to talk to legislature about gun rights and people, average people who own guns. So.
How's everybody doing? My name is Javier Garcia, co-owner of H-Tips Tactical, one of the hottest gun shops coming out of Houston.
The hottest.
The hottest. But before that, I'm actually a b-boy by trade, so I've been touring the world for about 20 years in the performing arts world. I'm also a culture ambassador for the United States of America. I go to different countries, and just bring them together through hip hop, using it as unity. And so that's what I wanted to do with the gun culture. I wanted to mix the two because I've never seen it. And so we have our own niche in the game right now, but because it's real, and that's why we're going to be here. And we just try to help out the community, so appreciate what you're doing, Maj.
All right, guys, I'm Hank Strange. Basically, I help people burn time on YouTube. That's what I do. I make YouTube videos. I also have a podcast. I think a lot like what Javier is saying, I consider myself an artist, and I've always been into guns, but not legally. So like 7 years ago, I decided I was going to actually get into this and legally own things and train and learn about it. And since I was creative, I decided to make a YouTube channel and share that with folks out there in the world. So that's what I've been doing for all this time. It's great to be here with you guys.
My name is Michael Savini. I'm third generation in the firearms industry, so my family believes in nepotism, which is good for me. I have a nonprofit organization called Walk Talk America that deals with mental health and firearms, and it's bridging the gap between the two sides. So.
So I'm rebelfullyloadedclip.com. Essentially, I run a blog that is really addressing firearm safety, culture, and gunsmithing from a novice perspective. I like to cover topics in culture that isn't well documented, so here I am.
I say, who's got the first question? Nobody else, and nobody wants to go first. So you know what everyone does?
Hi, Richard Ripley. I'm an NRA instructor in the Seattle area. We have, as you may know, the Seattle area is not exactly the most gun-friendly place in the world. In fact, more than one person has said to me, after Las Vegas, we shouldn't have people owning those kinds of firepower. How on earth can we respond to that gracefully? We know the answer, but how do we get to the people who've got that kind of mindset?
You're saying gracefully.
Well, I mean, beating them to death is not a valid option.
Absolutely.
So, wait, Keith, we forgot one.
Oh man, I was hoping I'd get away with this. All right, I'm Eric Blanford. I run the channel Iraq Veteran 88. Kind of like John and his dad, we've been at this about 11 years. It's been a long go. We make gun content on YouTube. My position is maybe a little bit different than some. I don't believe that gun ownership and gun policy and all the things that we discuss when it comes to the politics that surround it is a political issue. I believe that our rights are politicized oftentimes and weaponized against us. And I think for us to fight the cultural war of gun ownership for a wide variety of different people, we have to stop politicizing it and turning it into a simple right. The Second Amendment is the only right that gets politicized in the way that it does. They politicize it and weaponize it against us. It's our job to let common folks know, and all different folks from all different backgrounds, which are wonderfully represented up here, right? That we've got to turn this into a cultural war and not a political war. This isn't about politics, about what this person thinks, what that person thinks. Our channel has always been about trying to lay the facts out in a just purely objective way and try to just be informational and positive and educational. I believe that's a very important part of it. And lots of these folks up here have done a great job doing that.
So to the elder right there, his question. How can we have that conversation in essence with someone from a very classy perspective without alienating that room? Because in essence, you're not trying to alienate that person. You're trying to still bring them on board to our side. So whoever wants to go with that question.
So the question you're asking is talking about the people that say, I don't need, or why does anybody need that much firepower? Typically with people like that, and I've used this since Trump has been in office. When I'm talking to them, and you always have to do it one-on-one because you can't fight the mob mentality. That's tough. But if you can get them one-on-one, ask them, say, look, I'm not going to tell you my viewpoints on our president. That way you're disarming them because then they're going to want to fight with the Trump side. And ask them, I'm assuming from what you're saying that you don't like Trump. Typically, they go down the road of, oh, he's a Nazi, he's the second coming of Hitler, blah, blah, blah. Then I always ask them, do you know what happened? If you're right, let's just say, let's suspend disbelief and you're right, he is the next Hitler. Do you know what happened when Hitler took AR-15s and AK-47s and military-style weapons? And you see that light bulb go off, and then you can go down that road after you see that light bulb of, you have to understand, this is not about me getting mugged. This is not about me going out and shooting on Top Shot. This is not about me getting a deer for my family. This is about preventing another Hitler. And usually when I go down that road with them, every time I've gone down out of 5, 6 times, they've turned their mind around on it. Because you can't come at them like Eric was saying from a political standpoint. The moment you do that, it's the debate is gone.
This isn't really a Trump thing. It's
right.
Las Vegas.
Right.
The Las Vegas incident is what they're using as the mindset of saying nobody should have that kind of firepower.
Right. And
well, I was going to say, here's the thing: are things evil or good on their own? Or they're objects, right? There's good and bad people, and then we all bounce between that spectrum depending on what's happening to us. But things on their own are not evil.
So in my experience, my partner over here and myself, we host a podcast and we invite people that disagree with us all the time. Not as much as we would like to, but all the time, as much as we can anyways. And one of the things that we always preface it with is, I'm not here to change anybody's mind. And I think that's the problem, is where we're trying to change people's minds. And when you go into that, you go into a battle instead of, I just want to understand where you're coming from. Because once we understand where we're all coming from, then we can start having a conversation on how we change it, instead of me just trying to say, well, you're wrong and I'm right, or you're right and I'm wrong, because it's just this back and forth every single time, and then you accomplish nothing. That's been the kind of the beauty with us, is just in that podcast is we just want to understand where you're coming from, and then we'll make a decision from there. We're not pissed off, we're not hating each other, and then we can have this conversation about why you're wrong.
Second question right here, brother with the striped shirt. Yeah.
So I just want to say, first of all, thank you guys, everybody, for being here. I feel like I've been to a couple of different SHOT shows, a couple of different panels, but I like the way this one's looking right now, number one. Number two, my name is Kevin Ricardo Valdez Guevara, so I'm known as KRGG, because it's not easy. Thank you very much. I want to introduce myself. I want to tell you that I own a 20,000 square foot gun store, gun range, and school in New Jersey. We just opened up. Awesome. Been open about 1.5 years. Where you eat a hamburger in my deli, you're looking at downtown New York. So if you draw a line or radius from my place 10 miles around me, I have 12 million people. So we have about 25,000 people come through our range every year, and maybe 23,000 have never touched a gun, and they're all New York City 5-borough residents. So sometimes they come back again, or many times it's just a bucket list item. They never come back. But we feel a great responsibility and a great opportunity to communicate to them about gun culture and what it means to be a law-abiding, responsible member of that community. The duality is that I don't know anything about guns. This was an investment for me. So when I hear people say, what do I say to somebody who is just never going to agree with me regarding guns, I come to it with a pair of fresh eyes. I've never shot before. 1.5 years ago, my parents never owned a gun. So it's a completely new thing for me. What I want to invite everybody to do is first of all, I like to get to know people who work and live in New Jersey, because this is a business for me that is brand new, and I'm still looking to make relationships. You're right. I'm excited to be here. You're right. What can we do? What can we do? Governor Murphy scares the shit out of me. What can I do?
Move to Utah. All right, I live in New Jersey. I run the Second Is for Everyone in Gun for Hire Range in Woodland Park, New Jersey. You just opened every place since college, right? Awesome. What we do at the Diversity Shoot is talk about how you as a voter, you as a citizen, can do your duty, how you join Second Amendment advocacy groups and make a difference as an individual. They just had to relearn that in Virginia. People in New Jersey have to learn it again because they've been beat down. Virginia, they jumped the gun and tried to push all the New Jersey, California-like laws down their throats in 1 year. New Jersey was a slow boiling pot of water. They just keep turning it up. Every 5 years, it'd be something else. Since the shooting of Sandy Hook, every year, they would come up with new legislation. When Sandy Hook first happened, they told us they had 78 bills keyed up, anti-gun bills. They've been breaking them off at us 26 at a time. You can't fight all that off by yourself. You have to get active, and that's what you have to do. You have to build that base in New Jersey. So you got to work at it. You got to talk to people. You got to have a diversity sheet at your place. Right. Call me up. We can talk about it, because you got to do it one person at a time. You have to do it in a room where you talk to people and get them to let down those walls and go, hey, like Maj said, this is a safe space. Ask any question you want. We're not going to yell at you. We're not going to call you a snowflake, libtard, all that stuff, because I don't allow it. All we're talking about is your freedom as an individual, your freedom of choice, regardless of your background. And I don't want to talk about politics. I don't even want to talk about your favorite football team. We're here to talk about your freedom, and that's what we have to do. We have to do this one person at a time. This really has to be grassroots, and we can't depend on the organization. We have to do it as individuals. That's how we do it. It's a long road.
Right here, sir.
Put it in the work.
Yep. Right. Sir, right there.
My name's Roger Askin. I'm a dealer in North Carolina.
What you doing?
Freedom. I'm a retired U.S. Army paratrooper, 7 disciplined NRA instructor, homina. And it's really great that you guys are saying, I don't want this to be political. It has to be. The world we live in this country, we're divided into 2 camps, Republican and Democrat. I'm a libertarian.
Me too.
Same.
Okay? I don't care what you do at your house. I just don't want to pay for your bad life choices. Okay? So you got 15 kids by 14 people, not my fault, and I shouldn't have to pay for it. That being said, there's an African-American politician in Charlotte, North Carolina. I won't say his name. Suppressors, got a 50 cal, dude got a Barrett. Will not be a Democrat. He will not stand up for what he believes in. So my question is, we've got to reach across the aisles. It is a political issue.
So,
because
I'm going to take this question.
Go ahead.
So, whether you're interested in politics or not, politics are interested in you. So I think there's a difference in what they're saying. I think the miscommunication here is what we mean by talking politics. So politics by definition is the securing, maintaining, and expansion of your interests, right? So we all are, in essence, by that definition, involved in politics. I want to secure and maintain and then expand on what my interests are. Now, what I think they mean is, I don't want to necessarily know per se what your beliefs or value systems are in that regard if we're having primarily a conversation about your freedom. Because regardless of where you lie, right or left, up or down, so forth and so on, if we have the conversation about this is your right to defend yourself, unless you're the dude from like Hacksaw Ridge that just, no matter what, doesn't care about defending yourself, you'll go to war without a firearm, that's great if that's your freedom. But unless you're that person, regardless of where you land on the political spectrum, right, left, whatever, that's if you accept the duopoly. You said something like you are Republican or you are Democrat.
No, that's not what I said. The country's divided into those 2 camps.
They're divided into those 2 camps because people are dealing with it from that same politicized perspective. I'll give you an example, right? So Rob Pink is right here, right? Where's he at, Rob?
See, you already
right. So, for example, Rob just created an organization with a guy that historically was on the Brady side for 6 years. Now, as soon as he gets someone that is like, nah, what they were saying on the anti-gun side is not necessarily genuine, Rob creates that olive branch and creates an organization around it. Then, because everybody chooses to stay in that particular camp, now because they feel as if he's stepping outside of the camp or switching to the other team, we can't talk to Rob. And that's actually not true. We have to have someone that the ability to communicate with someone in a way where I'm not offended by your choices. If you're a libertarian, you understand the concept of, I don't care what you believe, I want you to have the means to defend what you believe.
See, I believe that an armed person is a citizen and an unarmed person is a subject.
But that's your belief.
Right, but here's what I'm getting at. This is, let me try and, I think you misunderstood what I'm saying. I don't care what people's belief systems are. The first 10 are sacrosanct, should be set in stone. How do we reach across the aisles? Cameron and I sat down and had coffee with Moms Demand Action. 2 gun dealers sitting down with Moms Demand Action. Okay, we actually made common ground. But how do you reach the politicians to get them to say, wait a minute, there is an untapped.
We talked about politicians giving money. So I think that's,
Rob, take this one. So, a couple of things. I think one of the things we do in this community too often is we look for the negative a lot harder than we look for the positive, right? This is something Zeke and I sat down and had lunch down in Nashville, and it's one of the things we talked about. You have answered your question at least 3 times with the things you're experiencing and you're doing and you're believing, but at the same time, there's this paradigm that you laid out at the beginning. I want to get the exact phrase if I can. I think you said something, he refuses to not be a Democrat.
Right.
High five to him, because I want a Democrat in leadership who has a .50 caliber and has a suppressor. Because that changes the paradigm if you allow it. Because if you've got this wall up and you're not allowing Democrats to own guns and be proud gun owners and be freedom and be citizens and not subjects just because they're in that camp, you're perpetuating the problem. And I think there's some of that. I think that's a deep breath moment.
No, you missed it. You missed it.
Yeah, what?
He won't step out of the paradigm.
Don't make him. Why do you
doesn't have to.
Let him be a Democrat. Embrace the fact that he's a Democrat. I will applaud him for being a Democrat, being a governor. Thank you for willing to be a leader in that camp and still have it be public knowledge that you're a proud gun owner. I think that's worth celebrating.
And I think that's.
Will he?
That's what he's saying.
Will he?
Wait, so let me get this straight. So, because first and foremost, you already have never experienced a panel like this at SHOT Show. That's number one. But I get to your point, which is, in essence, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. You're saying, yeah, he can be a Democrat, he can have a barrel rifle and all of that, but his policies, his actions and deeds are contradicting what his lifestyle is. I think
yeah, it's got to be a law. You got to let it play out.
It's
you
relevant
can't
if
ask
he votes
everybody
on
to
party
jump
lines.
That's it.
right.
He won't vote his own freedoms and his
He
own
won't vote with
beliefs.
his conscience, he'll vote on party lines.
Okay, is he
That's
holding
the issue.
office yet, or is he running for office?
Both.
And he's got a voting record against guns?
I see what he's saying.
Is it public that he's a gun owner at all?
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it too much about one person. Let's just, hypothetically, if someone is a gun owner, here's another problem. We have this no true Scotsman fallacy. You familiar with this? The no true Scotsman would believe that. Well, if you're literally a Scotsman and you believe it, then the fallacy is proved right there, right? So if he is a gun owner and he is pro-gun, but he is also voting for universal background checks, does that mean he's not pro-gun? Guess what? No, it doesn't. And a whole bunch of people need to swallow hard on that and realize you can be pro-gun and not agree 100%. Because guess what? Scalia, one of our guys, said in the Heller decision, individual right, but there are some reasonable restrictions even under the structure of the Second Amendment. We have to accept that too. The current federal law, the SCOTUS law, last decision we had on the individual right is individual right, but it can be restricted. Do I believe that personally? No. Do I think every gun law is an infringement? Yes. Do I think we should be compromising on our rights? No. But we have to accept the structure we go into. The conversation you had earlier, sir, well, this guy says we shouldn't have that firepower. I'll entertain it. So what you understand how the Second Amendment's written, right? I'll have that conversation gracefully. Okay, so let's pretend I agree with you for a second. Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. You understand this, the Constitution's been changed. You can have an amendment. We can change it. Do you know what the process is? Call Moms Demand Action. Call Bloomberg. See if they want to do that. Guess what's going to happen? Virginia's going to happen. The vast majority of Americans do not want to give up these freedoms. And if we have these conversations and we force these conversations to the base level of rights and we allow for gray area and we allow for common ground, we're going to get a lot further than this you're all in or you're not.
So, all right, so pause on that one. Hot, bad topic. Because there are going to be people in the panel that are going to complete. I disagree with Rob on this, a portion of this, but we're going to come back to that. I want to get everybody's perspective.
Hey, Maj, can we actually go back to, I think, the really good question from the range owner in Jersey in terms of how do we, reach out to more people. And, one thing that you said that struck me is you basically said about 90% of your visitors are first-time shooters. Is that correct? Sure. Right, and so For me, gun ranges and gun shops are a key part of, you're literally the face, right, of the industry. And you are sitting at these critical moments where someone is either going to have a great first-time experience or a shitty first-time experience. And if they have a terrible first-time experience, right, not only have we lost them as potential gun owners, but then we lose them in terms of their support of the Second Amendment. So, my simple suggestion is really focusing on customer service, right? To have, and this isn't necessarily, if you can recruit diverse people, right? Right, from the LGBT community, Latinos, African Americans, like that is great, because ultimately we do feel more comfortable, right, seeing people who look like us, right, recruit from your community. But it's just some of the simple things, right? Like, there are no stupid questions, right, for a new shooter trying to learn, right, how to handle a firearm. And I've been in too many gun shops, too many ranges where I see someone behind the counter, just, they have that condescending attitude, like, yeah, right? It's like, I'm the gun guy, you newbie, you don't know what you're doing. It's like, well, you're right, like, they're taking a risk, right? A lot of new shooters, they are often afraid of firearms, they don't know anything. So that customer service element, I think, really goes a long way. And this is a hearts and minds movement, right? And I think everybody in this room knows one of the easiest way to change someone's mind about firearms and the Second Amendment is just get them behind the trigger. And that, right, when you pull the trigger, you don't turn into an evil person. You don't, get bloodthirsty or anything. And so, really lean in that customer service aspect, and I think that will go a huge.
Can I address this guy really quick? Yeah. You made a point something about meeting with Moms Demand Action and asking how do we change politicians. You don't. You change Moms Demand Action. Right. That's how we change the politicians. That's how we do it. You're already doing the work. People come to us all the time like, what can I do? I'm not going to tell you what to do. You just got to do the work. When we first started out, we looked for organizations, hey, how can we get plugged in? And we got ghosted, like nobody wanted to talk to us. So we're like, well, fuck it, we're gonna do it. And then 40,000 students later, we're doing the work. Now there's 40,000 little minions out there. I'd say about 5,000 will hate the shit out of me now. But the other, I'm being conservative with that number. The other 35 love what we're doing, and they're out there pushing the word, and they're the ones that are going to change it, because when shit hits the fan, it's Moms Demand Action. They're going to be like, you know what, I'm going to go talk to this guy over here because he's a cool dude, and we're going to see how we can work this shit out between us instead of politicians. You don't change the politicians. They ain't shit. Politicians ain't shit on both sides. Ain't shit. You change the human being next to you. I get the frustration, but you got to do the work.
Right. Maj, just one quick thing to the guy in Jersey. A lot of times I think that you, instead of giving an answer to something that someone didn't ask you, you should ask them the question. Yeah. So I would start with asking people why they're there. Just like, why did you buy that range? Why did that person show up to your store or your range? Why are they interested in the Second Amendment in the first place?
Well, the thing is, when they come, they're not interested in the Second Amendment. They're interested in shooting at a time.
Which goes to the point of, and again I get the gentleman here's point, which goes to the point of their initial interest is not politicized. Their initial interest is, yo, I saw this gun on this John Wick, and do you have one of those? Right. You know what I mean?
Well, I want to go hatchet throwing.
Right here, and then the sister right here. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Renee. We're with the, I don't think you can tell where we're from. We're with the Diva Women Outdoors Worldwide organization, and my thing is I have 2 young daughters, and we're very big into hunting and things like that. But what we've been struggling, our group puts on clinics throughout the year to introduce women and kids to outdoor shooting sports and things like that. Where I've seen a struggle is getting the youth there. So I'd love to find out how you're getting 40,000 kids, getting them to where they're learning, because you're also up against that if they've got parents who are anti-gun. Because I believe the future of keeping outdoors and shooting sports, everything is going to be with the youth. So how do we go about breaking those barriers to reach the younger kids?
I'll take that question. I do a lot of outreach shows in the last 3 years, like I was saying earlier. And to get to them, obviously hip hop is the biggest thing in the world right now.
Do we look like we're hip hop?
You want to get to the kids or not? And so it's like when we do outreach shows, I don't just go up there and talk and speak. That gets boring. I was there growing up. So the way we do is we put on a performance, but at the same time you're getting educated without knowing.
But where are you doing this? Are you going to like their schools or
Yes,
we
we
host
go into
clinics?
all the schools across the United States, with elementary, middle school, high schools, even universities.
Okay.
But to reach out to them is how can you keep them engaged without losing their interest? Because the first few minutes they're going to tell, is this bullshit or not? Especially for a kid. And how can you get to them? So using hip hop, I'm not saying you maybe go out there, but hire somebody. I mean, it looks like you're from Texas by the hats. I'm from Texas as well. I'm in Houston, so we definitely can connect out there, and I can kind of plug you into where I need to plug you into. But that's where all the kids are these days. Just doing silly, stuff like that. And that's what they're engaged to. And I'm not asking you to come up here and think like you're hip hop, because they're going to see right through you. But you can always find somebody that you can hire to engage them to get to where you need them to be.
I think that in essence, and that's 100% right, and I'm so glad you asked that, and my thought was, Hob knows the answer to this. Yeah, so in essence, what he's talking about is creating liaisons. You know what I mean? Our understanding of what these men and women up here know can be crushed by, leftist, for lack of a better term, right? To just give you that thing. The messaging there has been consistent that they shouldn't listen to you, right? But a liaison that they already are listening to that speaks a language that's culturally relevant, you have to connect those dots with those liaisons. We, like Tony said, you can't do it by yourself. Okay, I can't connect to this young person. Hav can. Y'all are in the same state. That's a layup at this point, developing those liaisons.
Does anyone out there, just question, do any of y'all do this outreach stuff that are nonprofit? We are nonprofit. So again, we're dealing with the whole
So the answer. So let me address you. One, I can conservatively, just from this panel sitting up here, we probably educated well over 2 or 3 million individuals. What I will say is this: a lot of times when you're talking to the children, you want to get to the children. And what he said is absolutely correct. If you look at a lot of our content, especially the people with some darker hue up here, when you listen to some of the videos, we change the tone in the background. We're making the tone, and when they hear it, they're bobbing with it. And then and bobbing means they're jiving with it, they're moving, grooving, shaking and baking, right?
He means dance.
Because they are going to then listen. But however, when it comes to reaching the children, talking to them directly is one thing. But you have to use what's already in the universe that is scaring the parents, right? So I don't have to convince anybody that children are being shot by firearms due to accident. I don't have to. You turn on your local news, right? That is something that every parent fears, whether they own a firearm or not. And a lot of parents are anti-gun, so they think, because they're only thinking about their child's protection. So I don't go after convincing them to be pro-gun and let me get to their kids. I go after, let me show you how to keep your child alive. And once you do that, it is no longer a pro-gun, anti-gun stance. It's like, well, I don't have guns in my home. Do you control where your child goes every day? You don't. So hot stove method. How can we teach them if they see it, don't touch it? Tell an adult, things like that. Then you're taking pro-anti out of it. I am talking to you as a parent, asking you if you want me to teach your child how to stay alive. The answer is always yes. There you go.
Real quick. So the stuff that these guys are talking about is like super deep and meaningful and obviously like really in that lane, and then that's great. I'm so confident that John's answer is going to mirror my answer that I'm going to let him answer for me. And I'm telling you, I think there's a very deep underlying meaning also to educating the masses, and I think you and I are on the same wavelength.
I feel it. Could be wrong, but I feel it. So like both of us would make YouTube videos about guns. And something that we've seen, I think bar none, the biggest thing that brings in young people into getting interested in firearms that otherwise wouldn't have been, doesn't rely on their parents being into guns or any of that, is that every kid plays video games.
Yep.
Almost every video game has guns. And then once they get into guns, they're like, I'm gonna go look this gun up on the internet. They find our videos, and then they get interested in guns, they wanna learn about them. But you gotta have those institutions ready to go for them to actually get the real training.
Freaking kids know more about guns than we do half the time. They do so much research, and they're just as Rain Man as we are. But they're knowledge sponges. You know what I mean? They just soak up that knowledge, and they don't realize they're being educated about it. They just are so interested in it because of popular culture or whatever it may be, video game or movie, John Wick, whatever you want to enter, whatever popular culture reference you want. It brings them into the fold. Someone who may not care about guns
might become interested in guns by seeing a cool piece of content or video game or a movie, and I think that cultural thing is a big part of it.
Yeah. Argo, I want you to jump in here a bit too. So can I tell them also your other job? Yeah. So Argo is actually like a teacher with students, right? So what are some of the experiences that you've been able to kind of like bridge that gap a bit?
It all boils down to this, because I don't want to regurgitate what was already said. It's about relativity. You have to tie things, you have to connect the relationships. Okay, like Kevin said, like Katie said, you have to make things fit the need of the person you're dealing with. Okay, everybody has a need. Like Hank said, why are you coming to the range? Okay, how can I satisfy that need? Why do you want to learn about this? What do you want to know? Kids don't know what they don't know. Okay, and they're only going to suck up what's in front of them. And until you put something in front of them that's of value and of substance, they're going to continue to pick up and eat and digest this BS, okay? And that's what we need to change. We need to change what we're putting in front of them, what we allow them to see and to intake. And if you're not controlling that, okay, and if you're not controlling the narrative that they get and that they're fed, they're going to either lose interest or go the wrong way. Okay, until you make it relative, okay? Until those parents see that, hey, my child is into this, maybe I should either pick this up or find out somebody, about somebody who can help, further this and help grow this in a positive direction, will always remain stagnant.
So, real quick, sister right here, does everybody feel comfortable? Are these answers relevant? This is the reason why I'm saying this, because nobody's writing anything down, nobody's snapping. We're talking about young people. Okay, how many people have tweeted? How many people have tweeted any of this? How many? No. And it needs to go outside of this room. So I want to encourage everybody to take notes with your phone, right? I know old school, you guys write everything down, right? I get it. But even in the concept of, okay, snapping some of this stuff, throwing it on the gram, throwing an Instagram story up, throwing it on, young people ain't on Facebook as much, but my point is, these are some of the avenues that I would challenge some of you to do in this room as well. Sister right here.
We've been talking a lot about opinions, and I think that the way that we truly reach people and change mindset is through factual education and getting people to that. So I build gun ranges, and I run gun ranges, and I train at gun ranges for a living. And one thing one obstacle that I have is dealing with the different opinions that are out there about training and about how it's done. And I think, and I would be interested to know what many of you think about, I think that firearms education needs a revolution. I think that NRA curriculum is a little outdated and could use some evolution. And I think that many of you that sit on this panel, and then some of us in the audience, I think that we need to come together and work on that, because it's a huge obstacle for me when I'm trying to implement training programs into the ranges, because my wheelhouse is introductory education. So my passion project is getting women and youth specifically interested in shooting and build up their confidence so that they want to take classes from advanced educators, so that the pathway of training continues to grow. But I think that what we don't have in some of these firearms facilities like what you have is we need a pathway to training that people can put on their website, because people don't know where to start, and then they don't understand when they're considered to be an experienced shooter, and then when they need to be put on a maintenance program. So we need to treat this like a university would, right? This is where you start and this is where you finish. So who's going to do that? What gun rights organization is going to start that? How are we going to get that out there? Because we have to have a format, right? The old format, it's done. Like, nobody wants to look at it anymore. The NRA website's cumbersome, right? And so that's my first question is, when are we going to start doing that? When are we going to start rapping about that, so that all of these gun ranges that are popping up that are asking me to go consult for them, I have a thing to give them that's endorsed by people on this panel who are respected in the business? That's my question. And then my comment for you with women and youth and things like that is, you have to theme events, right? You have to theme things that are interested to them, right? So at my gun ranges, we do things for kids, like we do like a Call of Duty shoot. right? And we have it physically at the gun range, right? I mean, we even do stuff for little 6 and 7-year-olds with the big marshmallow guns, right? And we're teaching them on Nerf guns. We're teaching them, trigger discipline and grip, stay inside, put your trigger pull. Like, we're starting them young, and then we're educating parents on, don't let your kids run around with these toys and do whatever they want with them, right? Like, put parts of your house and hang up paper targets, in these certain areas and say, this is your gun range area, and these Nerf guns don't go out of that, area, and we don't point them at people and things like that. So you have to theme these events. I do a lot of women's events too that are themed to popular culture, and that's how you get them educated, and then it's putting them on a pathway to training. But my question.
Yeah. So one, I want to touch lightly on your question first, but before that, I want to say again, you're actually like Rob's just statement was, you're actually doing the thing that is the thing that you're saying. So for example, right, our events, we do face painting. We'll have Spider-Man, all this is family night at the range, right? So in essence, you're talking about Nerf guns. You actually are developing a curriculum, right? But then the other question to add to that would be, okay, the standard of when someone starts and when they're finished. Akil just went through a paramedic and whole entire EMT course. Are we talking about for self-defensive training? Are we talking about plinking? Are we talking about, so you're talking about then layers or tiers?
Yeah, we need a pathway to training, right? So do you start with situational awareness and non-lethal weapons, and then you move up into introduction to handgun? But one thing that I never see ranges teach, at least in the tour that I did before I opened the 5 that I've done in Texas, is like, who's teaching ballistics? Like, how are we, because that's the biggest part of what is wrong with how we're talking to each other in public about guns is, I think anti-gunners have a huge misconception about what guns can actually do.
Oh, okay. So that question has so many layers though. Yeah. So Kil, I would like you to answer it from a self-defensive and like real life scenario perspective, and then go from there. So start with Kil.
So I share the same concerns and the same questions, and not only do I share it because you said, but I share it because that's my life. So as a Green Beret, I'm operating at like top level. As a retired Green Beret, I don't have that same need or requirement. So what I've done with my own personal self was develop a training program to help me sustain where I need to be to save my life. So I like sharing information with people that need it. So I created a program like Fighter 365. Like Fighter 365 is, you need to be not only prepared, but ready to protect yourself. This is kind of on a different spectrum, but ready to protect yourself at a moment's notice. And what that does is engages the individual 365 days a year so that they're ready. So they start off, and I'm assuming when people register for the program that they're novice, they have zero knowledge. So they're brought through the basics of firearm safety, they're brought through the basics of gun discipline, things like that, and then they're taken to the spectrum. So after they pass this portion, then they go into a more intermediate/advanced portion where now we've mastered the basics. Now, how do we apply the basics, right? Like an application. I want you to learn how to, and it's a program that I developed because I've used it overseas with indigenous personnel, which worked. And so now we're not only using the basics, we're applying it to self-defense. How do we correct malfunctions? How do we do different things? How do we use cover? And not only are we focusing or understanding the application of the basics, we have to understand awareness is super important as well. So there's an awareness aspect of it where if you're not aware, it doesn't matter what you have. You can have grenades. If you're not ready to use it, they're obsolete. And in addition to that program, it's also a physical fitness aspect as well. Because a lot of us, and I say us because we included, we figure, hey, I have a gun, I'm good to go. But that's not the case because guns don't always work. And the loudest sound in the world that I've ever heard was pulling the trigger and hearing a click. Right, so it's like when my gun malfunctions, I still need to win the battle. I still need to win the fight. So there's also a physical fitness aspect as well. So it's not only just a Light Fighter 365 program. It's a 360 warrior mindset, warrior concept program, which kind of touches on what you said. And it does use some of the information from the NRA because some people say NRA's program is antiquated. I think as a base knowledge, when we talk about the basics, it's a really good program as it is, no politics involved. The information itself is super basic and it's super easy to digest. The delivery patterns may be antiquated, but the
Yes.
information itself, and it's for us to take that information and tailor it. That's why my company is called the Tailored Defense Training Group, to tailor it to the individual user. Just as Maj mentioned earlier, it's like when you have these different demographics, you need different individuals who can speak that language to get the message across. So I don't knock NRA's programs. I think the core base of it is really awesome, and it's up to us to take it and translate it into the language of the end user. If that's helpful, if that answers your question.
So on that, I might piss some folks off, and that's okay. I can't criticize the NRA right now because I got suspended for criticizing the NRA.
Let's get it all out really are trying to meet.
Yeah, exactly. Just the fat version, I'm saying. But my thing with this is there's a lot of ranges out there, and I'm a capitalist. You got to understand that I'm a free market guy. I'm actually an anarchist. I believe in true free market. And I say that so you don't misunderstand what I'm about to say. And there's too many ranges out there. There's too many instructors who are just focused on the bottom line. And I get it.
That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's why I read your mind. And that's okay. You got to worry about paying the bills. You got to take care of your investment. I get it. Like, I 100% get it. But sometimes there's a lot of ranges that are like, well, that class isn't bringing in enough money, so we're going to scratch it. Well, no, that's a valuable, ballistics is a very valuable class. I can't teach it, but I might bring somebody in. Yeah, I'm going to lose $1,000 in this class. Or I may not make $1,000, and I'm just going to lose 4 hours. But now I've got a room full of people that want to learn about ballistics that wouldn't pay $100 because they're like, well, I'd much rather go to an advanced class for $100 than go to a ballistics class for $100. So I'll lose it. Now I can take those students, the pool. That's how we got $40,000, 40,000 students. Where's it? $40,000. 40,000 students in our database because we do our base concealed carry class for free, and then we charge for the other ones. That's kind of our loss leader because we invest our time into those classes so that people can continue and have enough money to go to an advanced class with this guy, an advanced class with Argo here and KD, and they go and feed money over there because money is cool, but if we're not bringing the people in, then it doesn't mean anything because you're going to have an amazing class with no students in it.
And I think it's got to be relevant. Like ballistics is like, it's interesting, but not everyone wants to know about ballistics. And so it's like, I think it's a high-level class, like where it depends on how deep you want to get. Information definitely should be included to understand the effects of the firearm, just like it kind of goes along with the responsibility of using a firearm. This is the result of your action. This is what can happen. But like to get super detailed into ballistics, like I'm a sniper and I hate ballistics. Like I understand this is a lot of math and it's a lot of information, and I'm like.
I think you can customize it to different levels.
Yes.
My point is that my struggle is I would like an easier pathway to training that I can start talking about in my ranges because I'm struggling with getting women especially to go past introduction to handgun and license to carry.
Wait, so to touch on that real quick, that part isn't necessarily, so like everybody up here pretty much knows more than me about firearms, ballistics, all of this stuff. Everybody on this panel, mental health, everybody in here knows way more than me about all of this stuff. We talk about the liaisons. That isn't necessarily a lack of, I don't think that I think they're not, like Argo said, there's not an introduction to in a culturally or cool way. The marketing is off. We was talking about that last night at the bar. The marketing is off in how it's being presented to the demographic to make that value click in. Yeah. So for example, if everybody in my hood has every single gun, every gun, how can I make them make this cool? Okay, and then it'll spark other conversations. That dude's a sniper. I could be a sniper. It has to be presented cool. I think that's the part in the PR and marketing department. Most of the PR money has been spent on like cool pictures and like cool, you kid it out on the commercial. The part that's missing is the PR that goes, this is relevant and this is cool. You got to make that part cool again, right?
Where are you from? Ma'am? Ma'am, where do you operate out of?
Texas.
Texas? Okay. I'm operating mainly out of Baltimore, Maryland. So, if you, Texas, I've never lived, served some time in Texas as far as the military, but I don't know the actual needs, the on-the-ground needs of Texas. But you go to Baltimore City, where there's like 340 something homicides every year, the need for going from A to Z is there. So, there's not an issue with that, but it is an issue of responsibility where I am. So it really depends on where you are and then how to kind of create, not that you want to do fear mongering or anything like that, but you kind of have to create that sense of, hey, you just understand the basics. We're just scratching the surface. Now, let's learn how to take that information and learn how to defend your home. Not that you are going to need to do it, but let's just wait it just in case, or carjackings, whatever type of issue you have in that state, just to try to be that conduit to say, hey, this is how you can use this to get
And on the business side of it, back to the business, I was just going to say one more thing, so you don't hand me too much, is on the money side of it, if you're interested in ranges adapting these programs, maybe you don't go one way, you go the other way. They got to understand why they're losing more money by not having these classes than anything else. Because at the short term, it looks like I'm losing $50, but in the long term, you're losing all of these potential customers that would have been in your seats, that would have shot your guns. So it actually makes more sense for them to lose a few bucks in the short term so that they can gain in the long run. They cannot afford not to have these classes. They have to have these classes.
Yesterday, that was my topic at Shot University. So if anybody's sitting here wondering what he's talking about, I've got a whole PowerPoint from yesterday and the recording. Send an email, find me on the internet, I'll send it to you because we have the answers. And USCCA has our methodology in a multi-step program. There are other organizations out there that have multi-step programs other than the NRA. They're the ones that everybody goes to. I get it, and I will agree that everybody knows I'm at war with them leadership-wise and politically and structurally, but there is some core good stuff going on in that program. Unfortunately, the low common denominator they have with 90,000 instructors means it doesn't always get delivered well. But there are solutions out there, and I can point anybody out there in the direction of some of them.
Just one quick thing I want to say. So the old way, for anyone out there wondering about all these things, like with the NRA, the old way was you reached out to the NRA. The new way is you reach out to the people. So if you have something and you develop it, reach out to someone here on this panel, because even if I don't do it, I can talk to KD, I can talk to Maj, I can talk to someone here, and we could put that out on the internet. If people aren't interested in the ballistic thing, here's what I would do. I would record that and throw it up on YouTube or social media, so when people want it, they can get it. So it's just old and new. We just have to change the way we think
And if you're
about it.
wanting an education platform, I can't announce what I'm doing yet, but find me afterwards, because that's exactly kind of what we're going to have.
Eric, going to do a couple more seconds on this, then we're going to go to Piper. Then
Very, very quickly. I can answer two questions at once. All right, young lady over there in the cowboy hat. So your two young daughters, right? They go to school. You don't question what they learn in school, right? As parents, we all assume, all right, little junior learned it in school as long as it's not too crazy. All right, that's probably the gospel. That's what they need to be learning, right? So parents always associate school with what their kids might need to know or whatever. The problem is we are losing the cultural war of education in the schools when it comes to conservative values, things that we care about, right? Gun ownership is something that is an integral part of American culture. It's a part of our society. The schools no longer teach kids that, they no longer have rifle teams, they no longer have shotgun teams, they no longer give basic classes in at least, hey, safety or whatever, basic safety. Hey, don't touch this, don't do this, this is that action, this is that action, right? Teaching them the basics, right? When I was coming up, we learned about guns in school. You know what I mean? I'm 7 years old and I'm learning from a cop, hey, this is a single action, this is a double action, this is a pistol, this is a shotgun, this is a rifle. So we're losing the cultural war, okay, with the education system because they don't want to teach our youth about these things at the basic levels. And that's where it starts, is setting that foundation, at least teaching them the basics in school. They should be learning these things from an instructor while they're still in school. And they should have a rifle team after school, after school air gun team, after school 22s, shotguns, whatever.
This is what I'm hearing though.
That's the issue.
So yesterday, what this sounds to me like is a part of the presentation that we did yesterday was the business of freedom. These actually are ideas, as most of us in here, if you're a socialist, identify yourself so we can actually leave. With that being the case though, these are actually the problems that we're having. Everybody up here, and I'm pretty sure most of the people in this room, actually have solutions that we can then monetize. And I think I want to make sure that we are all focused on that. This is, again, that we expand the gun community by creating jobs and participating in the business of freedom. And so like what Eric's saying and what everybody else is saying, okay, he already has a tailored program for these things. You both definitely should link up and figure out how that can then tie in and into some of that USCCA stuff. And then create something to sell off of it, right? So that's pretty much that on that. Sister right here, and then you, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Piper Smith. I run a group called Armed Equality. I know half of y'all know me very well. So for my question, I would ask whoever's going to answer it to be someone that doesn't have my cell phone number, just so I can get a new perspective. Not that I don't love the people I already got. So Armed Equality is the most active LGBT Second Amendment centric self-defense training organization, advocacy group in the U.S. Started it after the Pulse nightclub shooting. Since then, just as a volunteer, we've trained over 1,000 LGBT individuals in armed and unarmed self-defense. The context is relevant for the question. So the question is going to be, how do we, or if anybody up here has any advice, on how do we get everyone outside of this room to be better when it comes to being inclusive in the 2A space? And well, I gotta give you some more context too. So I'm assuming everybody up here, just judging by an age profiling here, is probably somewhat familiar with Instagram, etc. I made a post about 4 days ago that said something to the effect of, there is no place for racism, homophobia, transphobia, sexism in the modern American Second Amendment community. And I said Second Amendment community because that's what I'm focused on. That post went viral for whatever reason and was shared, last I saw, over 1,000 times, seen by over 100,000 people in the last 4 days. Cool. Not so cool. It got shared to some neo-Nazi circles. They exist. They're real. And there are a good number of them that are somewhat connected through maybe a couple of degrees of separation to a lot of the Second Amendment community. And the way that I've seen that taking place, especially on Instagram, is that you'll get those real edgy, hang the tyrants kind of memes, and then it goes a little bit further, and then there's other people that are taking another step past that. And I don't see a lot of people outside of this room. Like, I know everybody in this room, the fact that you're even here means you're not a problem. But the people outside of this room don't seem to recognize that that is a real problem. And my wife here and I were greeted by Las Vegas counterterrorism detectives at our hotel room yesterday morning. The reason why is because that social media post was shared to some unfriendly parts of the Second Amendment community, some neo-Nazi parts.
I want to jump in on one. Go ahead.
And that's a first. It's not our first rodeo in terms of getting press for what we do, but it's the first that it's gotten to that level to where we're now having to create social media fundraisers to pay for our executive protection for the rest of this week. And that sucks. At some point, we're going to get to the point to where we can't even afford to come and be in some of these spaces.
That's not true. You got a gun. It's not true. It's not true. Wait, so stop for a second. No. Wait. I want to go ahead, because your question is, how can we get those people outside to... Go ahead.
The question is, how do we convince everybody outside of this room to be better in terms of their messaging, in terms of calling out the people that are the problem? Because we all know somebody that knows somebody that is not helping us and is making our job a lot more difficult. So how do we convince them?
I think everybody, like this to me, Argo,
I just have a simple question. Why does it matter what they think? Like, why do you have to convince? You will never convince everyone to. You can do anything you want. Why waste energy trying to convince someone that doesn't want to change? Instead, use that energy into building your platform, building your team, training your team. Focus on the people that are receiving the message, and everyone, the rest will follow. Because you'll spend the rest of your life, your children, everyone will spend the rest of their lives trying to convince someone that, you know, you're okay too. You know, why waste your time? Like I used to do that when I was younger, and I was like, you know what? I guess I'm like, you know, you see older people and they just don't care about stuff. I'm like, if I get older, I just don't care about that. I'm like, I'm not gonna waste my time on that. Because, I'll say this, they're not judging you and your group for who you are, they're judging you for who they are. So focus on who you are and build your team. Don't worry about that.
I think what he was saying about wasting your time was wasting your energy on something that you can't change versus actually doing something productive.
But wasting my time doing what? Because literally all I did was make a
wasting your
Facebook
time
saying racism is bad.
Yeah, but
And
that's the problem.
it resulted.
We all make those kinds of posts, and we all get attacked from mysterious people out there. And we ultimately all have to deal with it. It's terrible that it happens to you. It's terrible that it happens to anyone. Ultimately, we can't do anything about those people. You know, my dad always told me, like someone who loves you. We love you. Like us, don't worry about that.
So keep sharing it. Keep putting that out there. But there won't be room for them in our culture because we aren't going to stand for that. And so you keep sharing it and you keep being you, and we're going to support the people that are doing the work. And there won't be room for them. I mean, in some ways.
Can I clarify the question better?
Wait, wait, go ahead, Argo.
Because, you know, we didn't misunderstand the question. Right. You know, we totally hear it. You know, but you have to continue doing it. And here's why. Look at the people who you are trying to affect change in, right? Look at those people. If those people are looking at you and they see you continually leaving their side to fight a fight that frightens them, okay, and scares them because they don't understand it, and this is why they're probably trying to follow you and learn from you anyway, because you're this figure that has already overcome what they're trying to do and get to that plateau, and they see that you're not wasting, but you're spending and exerting your energy on things that don't help them and continue to frighten and scare and confuse them, you will lose them, okay? And if you don't start saying, fuck y'all, I don't care, then you will never be able to help those that you do care about.
And there's places in this world where people like you would be killed for what you believe. Right. America's not that place. Like, we all get along here, we do our thing, we all live the way we want.
That's a very ironic comment, considering counterterrorism and
You know, I'm sorry, let me just say this real quick.
Incredible threats against our life.
Hold on. Because Maj started this off with saying we're going to keep it a buck in this room. So I get that we've evolved in everything from TV to all this fancy shit. Let me get to the gist of this. Everything they said was a book. If somebody is going to take words, harmless, once they flip words into action, shoot them in the fucking face. Right. Done. That's it. Once they take their words into meaningful actions that are going to take your life or put somebody in danger where you need to defend yourself, how do you think LG, look, I get it. People that are homosexual and things like that go through a bunch of shit. I totally get that. Totally get it. So do I, just for walking outside. The difference is they have to guess about you. I'm hated just for what I look like, right? So I get it. You don't think that the gentleman in this room, you don't think Maj get death threats? You don't think I get death threats? Get fucking that.
You think
it doesn't matter. But the answer is this. No, the answer is this. The answer to your question is this. That victim mentality shit is played out. Once somebody is talking, if they're just talking, fuck them. Now, if it is a gun person with some influence, me and Maj once before shut somebody's page down. Now, if somebody gets reckless, get that individual. Outside of that, private groups, secret groups and shit, talking about they're gonna do something. Once they take their words into physical actions,
then we'll all be there for you.
That's it. And that's
Wait, stop. Wait for a quick second. Again, this is the most lit panel that you've ever heard of. That's the reality of it. Go ahead, bro. We're going to move on and come back to this. Go ahead. No, Piper. No, you're next. I'll give you another one. Go ahead.
So, I had a couple of observations questions. And to the gal in front of me, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name. You were worried about, or you were asking about how to...
Oh, I'm Jara. Hi.
Hi, Jara. I'm Alan.
Nice to meet you.
So we run a outfit out of the Arizona Strip, out of southern Utah. And one of the things that we decided we would do, watching your show, watching a bunch of other people's shows, we collected a bunch of old World War II relics. We've got some really neat stuff. And we invite people who want to come out, they want to see the Spanish Trail, they want to see the Native American culture. They also associate the West with, you know, single action revolvers and double barrel shotguns and all that. So we developed a collection that starts at anywhere from a suppressed Walther 22 to a cute little 4-pound full auto 22 M16 to belt feds. And for the answer for the ballistics guys, you know, we throw a piece of steel up there. Say, this is what it'll do.
Okay.
For the answers that need to be a little bit deeper, we go a little bit deeper into that. I spent 30 years in fire and EMS, and so know a little bit about trauma, and so we go into that if that's necessary. But what we've found is, one of the things I've liked about this panel is you've talked about involving the community, people to people. And the way this started was actually a gal across the street who was the city's first SWAT officer. Her wife had never shot a gun before, but she didn't want to learn from her. So she came to me and we went out. She was terrified. By the end of about half an hour, she was shooting my para-ordnance double-stacked 45 and absolutely loving it. So we get out and we get kids that are as young as 5 years old, and they're shooting a full auto suppressed 22, 1,200 rounds per minute, or they're behind a belt-fed M1919.
So in essence, what you're doing is, everybody, these answers to these things, they're layers, but they're not complicated. It's just really engagement.
Yeah.
Knowing how to communicate, you know, like for example, we'll rag on Piper because Piper's our friend. We'll be more aggressive with Piper, but if it's a complete beginner, right, we'll understand what your need is, we'll present that need, and then we'll go through the layers as you know,
exactly.
It's tailored, exactly.
So we'll take the kids and we'll have the fun targets. We'll have the helium balloons full of chalk. We'll have the golf balls that you can move into little quarters.
Right.
Or you can move over a little bit and sit on the
What's your question?
Sniper rifle range. It wasn't a question, it was an answer to.
Okay.
Sorry, no. Just saying that's one of the solutions that we found.
I guess I'll stand up. It's a little awkward, but my name's DJ. I'm from Lionheart Industries. We're a manufacturer and importer. Do things at more of that level. But I guess my question is, I see a lot of you have ranges, you have stores. I've interfaced with some of you on YouTube, and
you got tired?
To my credit, it's sick. But really, as a manufacturer, I'm really trying to figure out. I don't really interface with my customers too much. So I'm trying to figure out what do I do at that level to help support
Why don't you?
Why
don't you?
Did y'all know why we live?
Wait, no, hold on. No, seriously.
That's not really it. I'm just trying to figure out where I can be useful.
But why don't you interface with your customers? It's your business. Your customers are the reason your business exists. Why don't you interface?
Because of the distribution.
You sell it, right?
I'm really struggling to understand how the industry works.
He's serving them.
No, I'm asking twice.
So you feel there's a wall between you and your customer?
Okay.
There's a door right there.
What kind of products
has
do
a
you
platform.
Pardon?
What do you guys make?
Modular 9mm. So, we're just a pistol company.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I know that you can kind of see that distribution wall. It's just mucky. And your customers call you, and maybe you have experience with this, and you talk to them, and that's wonderful. But I mean, it's a few people a day. I'm looking for the more scalable solution here.
But
If that makes sense. And I know you guys are so creative, I just figured
You're looking
just reach out and work.
It's reaching out and saying.
And in what fashion? I guess maybe I'm not even picking up the simplicity
So,
of it.
like for us in Colorado, we Sunday you did 30-something students. I had 75 students. On Saturday I had 75 students. On Friday you had 60-something students. There was no company that's here in SHOT Show that has reached out to us saying, "Holy shit, you've got 200-something students a weekend."
Tell that.
Weekend.
Right.
You like when we've tried to work with companies, and they're like, well, you know, it's because this, that, money, or whatever. Like, I'm bringing you 200 students to you.
And see, that's the old world of the firearms industry. There's a transition going on.
Yeah.
So you're wanting to
And
hear
I
like
feel it.
what your customers think about the pistols? I mean,
Right.
well, we did a video on one of your guns.
Yeah, I
years
know you
ago.
guys did.
So I mean, I don't know. I mean, we just want to know what people think about the gun. I mean, the creators who make the videos, the comments
the
on the
comments,
videos,
yeah. And answer the
It's in essence, that was to your question.
Right.
In essence, what's happening is, so you are the kingpin, and your work is in the street, but you're not really low enough to figure out how they really feeling it. The answer there is, in breaking that distribution wall is, you kind of go through them and you can see third person by reading those comment sections. Those are in real time answers, especially on one of their videos, real time. Now, you'll sift through the people that's just gonna be like, they're gonna rag your gun just because.
I've got another question for you. Like, what are you doing to give back to that community too?
To give back?
Yeah.
Well, we are a unique firearms company, being a family-run company. We always think outside the box. I think anti the industry every day. I'm trying to do things backwards. From killing distribution to working with the ATF to make digital.
No, but what are you doing for the community?
The people.
Yeah, but also let's understand that he made the first step. He's here. How many manufacturers are here other than you? Like, if you're a manufacturer, put your hand up. Okay.
I have a nonprofit. I want to say something. I have a nonprofit that works with domestic violence victims to change our culture of victim mentality to get them on. I have reached out to several manufacturers to find ways to work with them because I believe in developing partnerships. Like Katie said, it's about developing the relationships, and I'm consistently told we don't get involved in anything like that.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Well, yeah, but
I'm not saying
look,
whether it's
and
stupid or not.
no. But he doesn't suffer from that. You saying generally that's what. So that wall is happening on this side, but for his side, he's trying to figure out. He's the antithesis. He's the exception to that.
No, it's not directly to manufacturers.
Bigger guys.
So that's basically the thing is you got to be plugged in the community more. You got to be on the social media.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to go to the classes. You got to be
Reach out to these like
Because you're fighting against these bigger guys and the bigger companies. That's why you have to go harder.
Right.
Because they don't have to try. They don't have to try. You have to
Also,
bust
let me
that
say
in.
this. I think a lot of times there's companies for lots of different reasons that are worried about that because they think there's money and stuff like that involved. But as John was saying, you don't have to spend, it's just your time. You know, someone made a video about your gun, whether it was positive, negative, whatever, go there, comment. But a lot of us, you can reach out to us and talk to us. And we have platforms that we will put you on that doesn't cost anything. I'm not saying that to you, but let your friends know.
He should be answering this.
Right, that's what I was.
He should be answering this.
So then I'll
I mean, my experience before I started this company, I had no gun industry experience whatsoever. I worked for an insurance manufacturing company, and so I understood manufacturing. But this is the first time I've actually ever been to shotgun. We've been in business for 4 years, and we're family run, small business, 4 or 5 employees. So the first year and a half we were in business, we went to a gun show every weekend, and I'm talking about like 400 table gun show in nowhere, Ohio, right? I mean, I've talked to more people than I can care to talk to. Spent long nights on weekends out driving around, and then so that was like right around the presidential election in 2016 when we got up and running. And so then the industry kind of shifted. All of a sudden, you can find ammo anywhere. Pricing's not as big of a problem. People aren't begging to get into gun shows and buy ammo at 50% above retail price. So come March, April, it's like, shit, we better figure out something to do because we need to start selling stuff. This is the real deal. So I looked into competitive shooting and I started going to those events every weekend. I went around to local events in Michigan. Who are the good shooters? Who runs the good events? Who knows people in, at that time it was 3 Gun Nation, they're pretty much dead now, but UML, USPSA, IDPA, and those are the volume shooters. I mean, we have a team of 4 guys in Chicago that have bought 300,000 rounds from us this year. These are just dudes that shoot every weekend, like they golf, right? So those are the people that you want to talk to, the volume shooters, competitive shooters. Go out to the events, and some of these you can find pretty big events where you've got 300, 400, or 500 shooters in a weekend. You don't even have to, I mean, the first year and a half, we didn't sponsor any events. All I did was throw my shit in the back of the car, drive to the event, hang out. They talked me into shooting, they're gonna talk you into shooting, and that was the best thing that could have happened to us, because once I started doing competitive shooting, I understood the products they needed. I could look at the big manufacturers and see that, hey, these guys are too busy cranking out 50 billion rounds of cheap Winchester white box. No offense to Winchester. Every year.
Robert, you got something to say about that?
But they're not a million rounds a day. That's probably true. And so I'm never going to compete with that, because we're 5 guys in industrial buildings in Michigan. I can't do that. So let's find the products that we can compete in. Let's find the niches, frangible stuff, competitive shooting rounds with really small amounts of recoil, high accuracy. And I would never have known that existed if I hadn't gone to this first 3-gun match I went to in Michigan in February. Froze my ass off. And it's the best thing that we've ever done.
And so, how does that connect?
It's getting plugged into the community. So now,
I've been doing that for 10 years personally. I've
Sure.
been everywhere, every shooting.
How many competitive shooters do you know? Infinite? Do they? I mean,
there's so many.
Do they use your
Excel spreadsheet?
So there's a difference between just being in the community and actually adding value to the community.
Right, yeah.
If you're adding value to the community, KD adds value to the community, to his community with his gun, via his gun. That's adding value. Argo J is adding value to his community via his new rifle, via his documentary. I mean, everybody's got to add value to it, because ultimately, as consumers, what we want is to get something out of it. Like we want to feel like I mean something to you. Like I'm not just another dollar to you.
Right.
Like you're giving me something to be invested in.
How many people here at SHOT Show have gotten something really cool that you got it for free, but you are going to buy from that company later because of what you got?
All the time.
This is back to what she was saying, wanting to provide that value, that free lesson. When you give, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase jab, 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 right hook in the marketing world. It's free value, then you're asked.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you've got to give the free value 10, 20, 30 times. It's not just 3 times. Back to what you were asking originally, I've got a use case scenario for you with these windows up here. 6 years ago, I went to work for a gunsmithing college. We had no direct one-on-one with our demographic, but because I had a podcast in the firearms world, I knew where our demographic was. It was all new media. It was YouTube, podcasts, blogs, stuff like that. So I went to 5 or 6 of these guys on this panel, 7, well, yeah, kind of. We tried one. But the growth we got from that was exponential. That's good on the business side. But the interaction we get to have with a video with Eric, where we just sat down and we talked about reloading for 30 minutes? You know, doing stuff with John and his dad, and Argo J and Hank and Rob. The growth came not because of the exposure and the analytics and the numbers, which in business sometimes we get too in depth. You need to know all that to be a good operator in business. But the key to marketing a brand is the connection. It's a psychology game, it's not a numbers game. So if you know where the demographic is,
Make a video about you making a gun, because a lot of people are at 80% lowers right now. Make a video how your gun is made. Take that, and be like, hey, if you're is that what you're doing?
Yeah, and then all the animated GIFs.
Tell everybody how that goes.
Wait!
But
gotta move on.
All right.
Yeah, you guys love this panel. You love it. Right here. I'm gonna come back to you. And wait, before he goes, right? Now, any other questions after this is over? If you're just asking these questions and going back and forth, and I'm pretty sure that most of the men and women up here are accessible to you after this. If you don't actually link up with them, you kind of just like talking shit right now. Okay? Right. So let's move forward right here, and then I can't remember who was next. Boom. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm Ralph from Florida. I live in an extremely conservative area. Republicans generally run unopposed.
Good luck.
So I'm aware that I live in a bubble, and I'm trying constantly to get out of my bubble and reach across and get my opinions and my message out to people who I wouldn't normally interface with. Every time there is a civic event, I try to go. And I find myself the sole gun person there in the building. Where's all the other Republicans? Where's all the other conservatives? Where's all the other gun people? I don't have trouble reaching across. I have trouble reaching the guy right there.
Wait, so you said so your question is what in essence?
How do I wake up the guy that already is on my side and get him off his ass and out to do what he should be doing?
Tell him. Take him.
Just like that.
The same way the other side does.
Right, just like you just said. Hey man, I need you. You know, get off your butt and let's go. You know, why y'all lazy?
Or help get some people out there. Like Eric is saying, you know, Bloomberg and all those guys are paying, busing folks out there. You know, there's a lot, that's one of the big problems with a lot of these events, right? We need to start doing the same thing industry-wise. Like, let's help get those guys
Now,
there.
it's something before that. Let's cut the bullshit. Because Republicans suck at culture. Yep. Period. All right? We're going to have a real conversation today. I stood in Missouri, okay, with a great gentleman that most people know by the name of Timothy Knight. He called me out to a Republican-led meeting. I don't identify with politics. I go wherever the hell I want to and talk what I want to talk. I believe in freedom. So I get there, Trump is blasted everywhere. He would have been scared if he walked in there, all right? He's blasted everywhere, and I asked him a question, because they asked me, hey, why does the inner city or urban America in general keep voting this way against their own interests? I said, okay, cool, let's just say that side sucks. Let's agree 100% on that. Where the fuck are you guys? Because I grew up in the hood all my life, and I've lived in all kind of areas. Oh, I don't need that. I done grew up in the hood all my life and lived in all kind of areas. And one thing that I've never seen, I always seen my Democratic alderperson, mayor, whatever, whoever they are, or grocery store owner, talking their talk. When I get on the school bus, it's the same talk. When I go to school, it's the same talk. When I talk to my neighbor, it's the same talk. But when somebody like you might be the brave soul, I run into you somewhere that's safe for you. And then when you get to having a conversation, it's always telling me that what I've known all my life has been screwed up and wrong. So now I'm on the defensive, right? Because you're telling me I'm wrong. That woman in that room, when I asked her, how come she doesn't come to where I'm at to have that conversation, bullshit you not. Her answer was, I'm a white lady walking down the street. What if I see two black dudes? What are they gonna do? And you know what? She asked the question that the entire room wanted to ask. All right, so if you want to wake them up, the first thing you got to tell them is, y'all need to stop talking political bullshit. I don't want to hear it because I can educate you when I do. You want to talk about Republicans and gun control? I get your ass every time. So when people are talking about, oh, we want to take the Republican Party and we want to get them expanded into urban American, you're voting against your own interests and shit. First of all, stop talking to me about politics. Talk to me about my life. Let me know you care about me. Everybody wants to know that you give a damn about me on some level. But all that political BS, how can I get the conservatives to wake up? You're gonna have to swallow the hard fucking pill that they don't care. They don't care about people on that side. They give a damn about their own self-interest. What you have to do is be the advocate to wake up the ones that are willing to change their mind. So for everybody out there on those cameras, if you identify as a conservative, cool, man, good on you. But don't come to where I'm at talking that bullshit. When you come to me talking as a person. Come to me talking about the policy. Come to me talking about freedom. Maybe you need to reach out to somebody that's up here and be educated on how people that look like them have been affected so you can take those lessons back and those conversations you're having. But all that bullshit about you need to be voting for Trump because he's better than Hillary, which Hillary does suck. If you were doing all that bullshit, you were never going to wake them up because they don't care. What you have to convince them is they're voting against their own bullshit interests by not talking to the people, by not getting out there. How many motherfucking times we put up, and I'm done in 30 seconds. We put up videos with a hip hop flavor to it, and we got to deal with bullshit in the comments that's talking about, oh, you guys are paying these shit to these thugs and all that. It's American conservative values. I'm here to tell you, conservative or not, I don't give a fuck how you identify. If you can't wake them up, if you can't get them to go down, you don't have a conservative friend. You just found an enemy to America.
Right. Wait. All right, wait. There's a lot of questions and I forgot. I want to get to the people that haven't asked the question yet first. All right, so we're going to go that way. Can I answer? No. Let me do run through a couple people first. That's my man, yo. That's Isaac, my man. Go, you right here, brother. Then you behind. No, you was first, wasn't you?
All right. All right. This is gun community unity. I'm losing my voice. I'm going to do my best. I got into firearms in the latter half of the 2000s. I was able to legally buy them. That was the golden age of YouTube firearm content to me. So the internet, the videos, Facebook's coming out, that made, for me, the gun community thrive. And that's where I was able to reach out and learn about new products, et cetera, et cetera. What's happening now with YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all of this, the little hell-bent on looking to destroy the community. I wanted to get y'all's opinion on that, and how would y'all and everybody else push back? I know Full 30 was tried.
Oh, I gotta answer that.
Go.
Because we're gonna go fast. One, when I tag, so with the target with Zuckerberg is more right-leaning things, right? Freedom, guns, so forth and so on, whatever, right? I just use leftist hashtags. That's been a solution that's worked for me. So if I'm posting something that's libertarian or liberty-minded or freedom and stuff like that, I'm with her as in a hashtag. Me too. Well, I put that in the hashtag and mix it. That helps. I found some success in that. Right? It's just over here.
Hi, I'm Jess. I work at a smaller but big for the area gun store. So my question is, I remember somebody said, I don't remember who. Somebody said the guys behind the counter think they know more than you. You know, it's their sassy attitude. You know, everybody does it. So how do I get those guys in the mindset of everyone here to where it's everyone?
That's what I was trying to say.
So how do you what? How do you get them to change their attitude?
Guys that have been gun guys forever, they just have that attitude.
So I grew up in that.
Yeah.
I grew up, but for me, I grew up and nobody treated me like, oh, you're this sweet little, because I didn't let them, and my family didn't let them, in a sense. So one of the things you should do is have a Black Guns Matter class in your store.
Yeah.
Because we did that and it changed so much for us. Because first of all, it gave us permission to ask the uncomfortable questions. It brought a different group of people into our store, and it made the staff see that we as the owners value what he has to say as well as the people he brings into the class. Because it's not just Maj standing there talking to you. He brings in lawyers, he brings in trainers, he brings in all these. So your staff is what the problem is, yes? So they're getting to learn from people that don't tolerate that in a sense. And also, it just, some of that is some people are who they are going to be, and you might have to you might have to
themselves somewhere else.
politely let them be who they want to be elsewhere. And training, it's training. Just like with firearms training, it's culture training, it's people training, and what you value in your store. Thank you.
Just really quick, sometimes you also have to fire the customers that bring that type of vibe that feed into your employees. Because your employee might be okay, but they feed off of some energy, and you gotta tell a customer, you know what, I don't fuck with you, I don't want you in my store. We do that shit all the time. And I will put you on blast, and I will say I don't fucking want you here. And we get a lot of hate because customer service, and they're like, yeah, some of you guys don't deserve customer service.
I understand that a lot of people are having challenges here. My question is, why are we not asking the question what we can do? Every question that I've heard is, how do I get somebody else to do something else? And if you can figure that out, it would have helped me when I raised 3 boys. Because it's over. We can't get other people to do things we want, but we can invite them and we can influence them and we can change our attitude.
I got you. So I've been wanting to say this for like 5 questions. And it's fitting for all of us. You know, first of all, a bunch of us have already said it. If you're in this room, you've got the right mindset. Right. You want the change to happen. You want to see more acceptance. You want to see more people involved in the gun community. To change the world, you have to change yourself. You have to be a more positive person. The industry we're in has a negative stigma on it. You know, first, we have tools that were created for death. That has a negative stigma. How do we change that? Me carrying a firearm is an act of love. That's a positive thing. The reason I have one is if nobody else on this panel has one, I can protect myself and all them, or my family, or my children. That's an act of love. The positive side has to shine from this. If you're a hunter, you can put food on the table for your kids. Somewhere along the line, the most effective devil in America, thank you, turn the right to protect yourself, turn the right to protect our country against tyranny into a right-wing, left-wing issue. It is not. It is a human right. If somebody comes at me with a rock, I get to have a rock. Somebody comes at me with a stick, I get to have a stick. Lead pipe escalating all the way up to firearms. If I can afford it, I should be able to have a tank.
Yes.
But what I'm getting at is this industry, and to your question, out there, I've had to do this at least 20 times in the 2 days we've had this. When it goes down the road of, oh, the freaking Democrats, or oh, the lefties, or oh, this shit, whatever, I have to turn around and walk away. If it's only a couple people that I care and I love, I can say, look, I don't want to hear the negativity right now. We're here for a positive thing, positive vibes. Once you change your mindset and you change yourself to start thinking more positive, the people around you will see it. If you try to change them, it's not going to happen.
So wait, real quick, and I want to touch on that, Mike. So Mike Sodini, because all of these questions, I got you. All of these last group of questions are centering more around something. You're talking about a mindset. You keep hearing that word a lot. So that deals with your mental, right? And I think what we haven't really discussed, and I kind of want Mike to get in on this a bit, and the mental space of people in regards to that, whether that's the mental change as well as the mental space that you need to maintain. To some people that may, hey, I'm not feeling in that positive space. So I kind of wanted Mike to touch on that just a little bit.
Well, for me, because I work with mental health and predominantly mental health, there are a lot of left-leaning people. You have to find that common ground and bring it back to what we care about is trauma mitigation and saving lives, and we don't want to see people die, right? So somebody that doesn't understand firearms, we like to call it gun illiterate. You have to understand where they're coming from. For the most part, now maybe politicians a little different because there's a power play. For the most part, they want to see people alive, and they think that banning that is the key. I grew up watching Star Trek. And Star Trek was a great place because there was a bridge, there was all different kinds of people, and they just protected each other, right? And I always think that that's what most people want. So, you know, to me, and what Zeke says, right? Like, sometimes you just gotta let somebody say they don't like guns. It's okay. You know, that doesn't make them a bad person. You don't have to, you know, take it personally.
It's their decision.
Right.
Right.
You can't tell people Second Amendment is about freedom and then take their freedom to choose not to exercise the Second Amendment rights away.
But they want to take my freedom away.
That's what you work on.
Right.
But there's also a middle space out there that supports the Second Amendment and doesn't own, but they support us, and they don't. So there are still those middle people too.
Yeah. But before we, you know, I think what Kevin said, you have to. I'm from Florida, okay. I'm just outside of Gainesville, okay. The Republicans in Florida are putting in gun control. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's just. Like, you know, you're saying they want to take my freedom. I can tell you that, you know, Gainesville is very liberal. My studio's in Gainesville. I'm in the barbershop all the time, right? Those people that you're talking about do not want to lose their freedom either, right? The people who are taking your freedom are politicians, and they look just like you. Start there. I think just like Zeke was saying, it's starting with us. If we start with us and we fix us, then it's going to ripple out.
So I want to add one little addendum to what Hank was just saying. You know, part of us changing ourselves and being more positive is seeing the people in the community that are doing good within their own communities. Whether it's Pink Pistols or Armed Equality or Black Guns Matter, it's a 2A for everyone. There is a lot of this, especially with people that have a lack of melanin in our industry of, oh, good job, Maj. You know, look what he's doing, it's so great. Instead of going, fuck yes, what he's doing is awesome. I'm gonna take my money from my company or whatever, I'm gonna put it behind it and support him. Jay is trying to put together a documentary that is gonna be phenomenal for the black community and firearms in general. He gets a lot of dancing around. Well, our marketing budget is here, we're here. And I told him the other day, I was like, if they're dancing around, they don't believe it. Plain and simple. For those of you that are businesses owners, wow. I'm from Tennessee, I have education. For those of y'all that are business owners, if you believe in any of the stuff that these guys are doing up here, say fuck yeah and back them. If you can't do it financially, figure out a way to get behind them. You have social media that's free. Post for free. Support these guys because what they're doing is the future of our community as a whole.
Hold on, wait, hold on. Who was it? It was him, and I got you. One, who's two?
No, it's the person behind me. I win.
1, 2, who's 3? 3, okay. Go ahead, go 1.
I'm John Jensen. I'm from Montana. I have a small consulting business, and I deal largely with trying to train people and bridge some of the gaps that you're talking about. The demographics of where I live, it's a small community, it's on a reservation. We got less than 1 million people in Montana. In watching and listening to this, I'm trying to ask myself, okay, how can I get more involved in a very small, limited community? So my question, what popped into my mind is, nobody, to my knowledge, goes into the school system and tries to teach school or gun safety to the kids. Let me phrase that. In my area.
Oh, okay.
In my area. I'm sorry. I don't mean out there. I mean in my local area. And so my question is, who here should I link up with?
Yourself.
First. Right, so it's the 1-2 punch.
Okay.
It's I have the thirst to want to do this.
Okay.
I want to do it here. How can I create the liaison? We taught in high schools, we taught firearm safety for like weeks at a time.
Okay.
In leftist blue Philadelphia, right?
Right.
So in essence, it's one, you're here, your thought process is that. I'll give you my phone number, we'll set up a class. I gave it to you yesterday.
Okay.
All right, so, and let's set up a class. That's it. And then we'll bring the curriculum and then we'll chop it up back and forth about, because your Montana school system may be a little bit different than my Philadelphia or my Detroit or my Chicago or my St. Louis school system.
Well, and it's also different from where I am in Big Arm versus down in Missouri.
Correct. So yes, you got my number, we're gonna work on the class.
Okay.
It's already done.
One other follow-in, is there I have the time and I have the resources to.
So you got a little pay business.
Let me finish. I'm not the billionaire you're looking for. I wish I was.
You're not looking for a billionaire, millionaire to play.
Yeah, believe me, I'm not there either.
Go ahead.
Are there resources so that I can teach folks? I have the time to teach folks free to shoot. I don't have necessarily the resources to provide all their ammo and things like that. Yeah. Is there?
So link with Justin. He happens to have an ammo company. He's actually Black Guns Matters ammo sponsor.
Okay.
Right? So that's one.
All right.
Right? So you got me.
Am I going down the wrong road?
No, you're going down the absolute right.
We had a range in right near Detroit that taught over 900 women in a single day. They didn't go into the like fine details.
Right.
They got them acquainted with the gun. They shot however many rounds they wanted, 30, 50, 40, whatever. And I mean, we had a line wrapped twice around a gun range all day, even in the rain.
See, that's the group I
Wait. So you now got marching orders. You got 2 people. You got 2 points of contact.
Yeah.
After, because I want to move forward. But you can't just say it now. Now you're in Fight Club. Yeah.
I can't talk about Fight Club.
School thing, then number 2.
All right, look, so here's the thing coming in from being inside the school system, and I know the school system is different in Milwaukee than it is in Montana, but I think the ultimate goal is the same as the safety and the education of our children, okay? And when you look at it like that, there are things in place. Like when I was a kid, and I would read children's stories, I would get the message of the story despite that the little kids in the books were white. You know what I mean? Despite that none of the kids in the books looked like them. It didn't matter. Okay, but what's happening is that the message and the information is not being disseminated fairly or equally. Okay? Like we got a young brother back here who just wrote a children's book. Okay, and the character happens to be a young black girl. But the message is still the same. If you're about keeping our children safe, bring it up here. If you're about keeping children safe, and you're about educating the children, because education is the first way to safety, because if I'm smart about something, I'm less likely to be dangerous with something. Okay? If that's what the goal is, like despite what the resource looks like, give them the resource. Despite what where the resource comes from, you have to give them this. I mean, this is a hell of a book. Erica's a big thing. I mean, it's not about, like I said, it's not about, oh, he did it because he's my black brother and all this. No, it's not about that. It's about changing what's happening in our communities. Right. And if we don't start to adopt the things that are already there and pick them up and say, well, it doesn't look like me, so I'm not really going to push that, then you've already lost. You gave up. So I can't really trust you if you're giving up. You know, I need to see somebody that's going to stand and fight. If you're not going to fight beside me, sit your fucking ass down. Right. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking to you, but I'm just saying people have those mindset. So, like, the resources are here. They're here on the stage. They're here all around you. Right. So you just have to take those resources and accept them, and then let's pass them out. And
Let me touch on that, Maj. Let me touch on that real quick. So I do school shows in Montana. The last every 2 years I go out there. So what happens is we'll go to Alberta Bear Theater in Billings. Okay. So what they'll do, they'll actually bus in all the kids, and I'll do multiple shows a day. And so they're bringing the kids to me. Vice versa, you get a team to go out there, news media, hey, I'm doing this event, blah, blah, blah. You get them, you get vans, you get buses, you have them come to you. So there's other ways around it to make it happen.
Right. Number two.
I got a question and a comment. The fellow up front from the conservative area where he's got Republicans that really aren't Republicans, and the fellow up front with love. I turn this around. I'm Alan Corwin. I've written 10 books on gun laws. I know some of you know me. Maj and I have worked together a little bit. When I meet some of these people who are really anti-gun, I just tell them flat out, you know what? I don't think you should have a gun. And it freaks them out, because now all of a sudden they can't have one. I force them to have what they want us to have. And they're not happy with that. And it makes them think, oh, that's not right. And I tell them, you know, I think you hate guns. And they tell me, yeah, I hate guns. And I put a hand on their shoulder and I tell them, it's not good to hate. And it freaks them out. And all of a sudden, they start coming around to me. It's reverse psychology. And I say, you should sign up to never have a gun. You know? And we actually drafted that bill and put it in the Arizona legislature. It didn't go anywhere. It makes the point. The question I have is this. There's a group called JPFO. Anybody know it?
Yes. Yeah.
Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership.
I'm a member.
Me too. Of course, you're Jewish.
Right.
It shows curly hair. One of our projects is why are they calling it anti-Semitism when most of the people hate Jews are Semites? It's a euphemism so they don't have to say Jew hate.
Right.
We have a bunch of rabbis who were with us. I'm a consultant to the group, and none of them were willing to stand up and be counted. We need a rabbi who's willing to say, I support this group, and stand up.
You know who I think you might want to talk to?
That's what I want to hear.
Yehuda.
Oh, Yehuda would do it.
Pew Jew.
Yehuda's with us.
Oh, okay.
He's not a rabbi, but
how can you become a rabbi? Make him a rabbi. Task him with that. That's his community. That's your business. That's the chosen few.
It's Yehuda's job. Tell him.
I know you. He's a member. He's written 3 children's books.
Yep.
He's still working on JPM on both those books. We need a rabbi. The other rabbi retired. We got a bunch who are with us, but they won't stay.
Wait, so you asking us to find your rabbi?
Can be your rabbi. through the Holocaust, 90% of them hate guns. It's not good to hate. If anybody knows a rabbi who wants to stand up and say,
ancestors went through slavery and they hate guns too.
so what is that?
It's fascinating to me how the most oppressed demographics in this country have the biggest population of anti-gun people. And I think we're back to the most effective method.
Right. Wait. Couple minutes left. Number 3.
I tried to ask before, and I'm going to rephrase the question. How do we reach across the aisles and prevent Virginia? How do we prevent that from happening again? Wait.
So one, that was an extreme disease, so it needed an extreme treatment, which is why 20,000 people had to galvanize. But you do that by being consistent. The key that I think the overall arcing theme here today is consistency. I don't really bang with enthusiasm. Enthusiasm wanes and fades. Consistency is this way the whole way through. So the consistency is one, the education, the information. Again, all of these people across here on this panel right here are from literally all across the nation, right? So one, these people have connections in each, section of their country, right? So you have to consistently be with them. You have to, communicate, and then you develop that network. But it has to, the word is consistency. So Virginia got to a point because we ignored Virginia for however long. We ignored a demographic. We ignored LGBTQ community. We ignored certain areas, and the left did not. And that's why by attrition, they start to create that space. So the answer is now starting here, coming here, and being consistent, right? Again, if you all in here do not link up with these women and men on this panel, regardless of where they may fall on a political spectrum, or they don't look gunny enough, right? If you don't do that, then we're just saying the same thing over again.
Real quick. I'm gonna stand up too. I want to rephrase my answers. Rephrase the question. Tolerance. If you care about guns, care about guns. Don't care about abortion. Don't care about immigration. Don't care about Trump. Care about guns. Tolerance of differing opinions. Tolerance of differing opinions within the gun community. Right? Maj said we disagree about things. I disagree with Tony about things. I disagree with Mike about things. Right? We have to allow for that. We have to be graceful in that disagreement. Right? You're not going to change anybody's mind. You're not going to reach across the aisle if that person represents to you like evil incarnate. They're not American because they're anti-abortion. They're not American because they're pro-abortion. Doesn't matter. They're not American because they think some part of gun control is okay. They're still Americans. They're American. They're not trying to destroy America. They're trying to make the best America they think could exist. It may not agree with ours in general. I don't care. I want to talk about guns. I want to talk about gun rights. I want to talk about personal defense. I want to talk about all of the things that I care about, and I want to understand their perspective on it, but I have to be tolerant of especially the differences outside the topic I'm on. But I even have to be tolerant of the differences on that topic. Go ahead.
All right. Everybody loves jumping to, what we gonna do so Virginia didn't happen? Well, I'm from Virginia. I live in New Jersey. I work as an election worker at the polls. Virginians, just like New Jerseyans, didn't show up at the fucking polls. 70% of New Jerseyans sat at home at the last gubernatorial election. 70% of Virginians did too. We had a Second Amendment rally before the election. No one gave a fuck. 2,000, 2,500 people showed up. If you show up and vote, you make a difference. Virginia never happens. That's the problem. It's not a gun problem. It's people not doing their duty as a citizen.
Who didn't go already? Me. Yes, you did.
It was a hat. It was hatsism. It was hatsism. It was hatsism. I mean, kind of the hat from the head up.
I'm Julie Clark. I own Austin Gun Club. Been following Maj for a while now. Excited to see all of y'all learn about you. Is there a resource for us to connect, like a web?
Follow us like you follow him.
I don't remember all your names.
No. So look, the answer is, I'm gonna just, point guard a lot of these real quick ones. So everybody's Instagram name, before you leave here, get everybody up here is active on social media.
Okay.
That's a major key. That is a major key. And again, like when I said earlier, who's live streaming this, who's tweeting it, all that other stuff, that demographic, and we're talking about younger people from all, connecting with people, it has to be done. Social media is a tool, that's why they're trying to suppress it.
Let's make it happen right now. Everybody pull your phone up.
Pull your phone up.
Pull your phone up. Everybody, like everybody. Because I guarantee you, if you're not pulling your phone out, there's somebody that you're missing. Pull your phone up. We're going to start down here with Tony. Okay, Instagram. How many of you have Instagram? Hands up. Okay. All right, so Instagram is the majority. Tony.
1. DiversityShoot.com. I have all the links to my social media.
It's not what we said, bro.
Because everybody might not be on Instagram. So on DiversityShoot.com, I have all of my links to all of my social media. My Instagram number is Simon Says Train.
Simon Says Train. Nobody's training. Simon said it.
I'm a John, John _
Let's give him some time to punch it in, though. Let's give him some time to punch it in.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, wait, let me see if I can get everybody there. So John's is John, John, _ HICKOK 45.
One more time.
John, John, _ HICKOK 45. Wait. I know everybody up here is social media by heart.
Can you put a list together?
No, I'm telling you the list right now. Everybody that registered, so here's the other.
Hold on, Maj. She just said it. That means they didn't do the work. You already put everybody's social media out there.
No, I did. It's on my Instagram. But everybody that registered, you're going to get an email with everybody's social already. So I already pre-thought it. Right? The real, THEREAL _ right? NOC. That's KD. The real, THEREAL _ NOC. That's KD's. Rob Pincus's Instagram is Pincus Rob. PINCUSROB.
Oh, not like the pinkest?
Nope.
Like superlative?
I don't know why you guys all have to have your little code names.
Justin's, follow his company, Phoenix Ammo, FENIXAMMO. Chris Chang's is Top Shot Chris, TOPSHOTCHRIS. Achilles is Tailored, TAILORED, Tailored Defense Training Group. Tailored Defense Training Group.
That was good.
It's good, right? Because everybody usually say Taylor.
Yes.
Right.
Impressive.
His is on the shirt. Guns _for everyone. That's Edgar's. Zeke is Zeke, ZEKE. You have an underscore, right? And then STOUT, no E. Right? Yep. Boom. Zeke _ Stout, no E. Argo J's is AAA, 3 A's, RGOJAY, right? Cass, Miss Disney 55.
Just use gun freedom radio.
Gun Freedom
Yes,
Gun Freedom Radio, or you can go AZ Firearms. His is on the shirt. Ours is HTX Tactical.
Wait for the gold Lou wants to back up because IG's always trying to shut my shit down.
HTX Tactical. His is, Hank Strange is Hank Strange. Michael Sodini is, you want to do Mike Sodini or you want something else?
Let's do one talk.
All right, WTTA. Wait, no, I'm trying to remember. That's your logo. It's Walk the Talk US.
Yep.
Okay.
Pull that out, though, boy. Pull that out.
Rels, who said nothing the entire time.
he introduced himself.
He introduced himself. FLC Blog. blog. FLC.blog. Do I have your Instagram password? I can't get on. I know your Instagram
Maj,
password.
what's yours?
Maj Toure, MAJTOURE. So now you're connected with everybody up here. Now, the fact that I could remember everybody's Instagram speaks to the fact that this is kind of important. In order for me to make sure that all of these people were here to serve our community, I gotta be engaging, all right? And y'all have to do the same thing. Now, you have their connects, you can still chop it up with them, and all of those other different things. If you do not, you kind of was pump faking if you had questions, all right? With that being said, thank you all. Thank you to our amazing panel.